Roma advanced to the quarterfinals of the Europa League today. They played in England. They lose 1-0, but on aggregate, it's 4-1. Daniele De Rossi is doing great things. I'm here today with Patrick. He doesn't have a last name. He just goes by Patrick, but he's quickly becoming a fan favorite. Guys, I'm glad to see you here today. We're going to break some laws. We're going to go over heat maps, which are apparently protected legally. I'll look at the statistics of this match, some player comments. I've got some burning questions for Patrick. It's bedtime for my daughter. She'll be going up soon. Anyway, let's get to the good stuff today. Patrick, how you doing?
Hi, Wayne. Good to be here. Good. Hello, everyone. I'm ready to get started right away with the stuff. So let's move forward.
Cool. All right. First question I'm going to throw at you before we get to the stats, and then we'll right away. I don't want to look at XG or shots on target just yet. Anything else? Tell me, does De Rossi get the game plan correct today?
I think he did. Honestly, without getting into the numbers right now, which we can cover later, I think that the two mistakes that we had going on, and you could tell, was the replacement. I mean, Lukaku was, I think, due to an injury that he couldn't be here today, but Asmun had a game that wasn't as great, even as he usually does. I think it was one big mistake to let Belotti go. You spoke about that on the Fiorentina match. I think that Belotti might have been able to stay and provide an attacking solution. But honestly, to me, the biggest negative impact that we had going into today's game was Zalewski for instead of El Shaarawy, and Bove coming in for Paredes. I think those two really got us on the wrong foot starting. And honestly, if we had gone with Paredes and El Shaarawy from the get go, I think we would have made a much bigger an attacking trend much bigger. I think at the end of the day, the depth of the team suffers when we have all these competitions going on. I don't know what you thought about it.
Yeah, because what that forces Cristante to do is play the Paredes role. And he can't. He's not that type of player. He doesn't have the vision, long range. He can't break up the tackle the same way. He's a simple ball in the same fashion. So what happens is Bove ends up playing the Cristante role, which works for him. But when you don't have Paredes as the guy to give you a little bit more room, give you that liberty to move around the pitch the way that Paredes does for Cristante, which is one of the reasons why Brian has been playing so much better, then it really is a negative impact on Bove's performance. So it's like, it's almost not fair for me to go in and then rate him appropriately because he doesn't have the same benefit. If I could say, oh, he did worse than Cristante in that role. I don't think that's fair, though, because Cristante has somebody much better than the defensive midfield Cristante helping him in that position. Onto Zalewski, though, I don't know, man. I'm not really that hot on him. I think that part of me under Mourinho was like, why is this kid constantly playing as a wing back? He should be more up. But now that he's up, I'm like, am I being too harsh, do you think? Is it just a matter of that he needs to get more time and really feel it as a winger? Shouldn't that stuff be instinctual?
Well, I think it was a bad performance today, regardless. I said way back then, a couple weeks ago when I was on here with you, that I thought he was going to do much better under De Rossi because he was going to get played in his usual position, right? He was going to be given a chance to move further up the pitch and have a bigger impact and play like he does in his national team. But honestly, if the performances are like the one we saw today, I think he's going to move on to another team eventually. And honestly, I think a lot of that has to do with the time he plays. I think you throw in players like Zalewski and Bove, who are not playing as much as they used to before, and they're not going to make an immediate impact. Same thing with Baldanzi, right? Because Baldanzi is a great prospect. I think he did an interesting job today when looking at the numbers. You can see that he had almost as good numbers as Dybala going into today's game. Even though you couldn't see it because he wasn't as flashy. He didn't score. He didn't assist. If you look at the actual numbers in terms of touches and passes and key passes, uh, he was pretty much there. I'm on the last game against Brighton. Dybala had 46 touches. Baldanzi today had 41 passes. Dybala had 28. Baldanzi today had 26. So you can tell that Baldanzi is not doing a terrible job, and he didn't do a terrible job today. He's obviously not at Dybala's level yet in terms of the impact he can have on the game, but I think once he gets a few runs of playing of games and playing time, that's going to improve. The only issue is I don't see him playing that much if Dybala is healthy, and I think maybe he needs to be dropped back to the midfield. I don't know if that role there on the wing or towards the right side that he moves to the center suits him, and that's the way he's best deployed. I don't know what you think about that.
To me, he's a trequartista. This is a kid like Dybala, but Dybala is a bit more versatile. Look, Dybala is the only reason that he's on the bench for Argentina is because the best player of all time is in his way. So it's such a shame. I wonder. I'm not going to say like he should have pledged to Italy, or I know he has an interesting genealogical background, but back to your point, though, where is Baldanzi best at? So we see, like you said today, he gets a relative amount of touches, 41, which we could see on the heat map here. For Empoli is difficult to judge because that team was really poor at that time. So to me, though, he's a player in the middle of the pitch. He's somebody who goes in between the lines. He splits them up. He's somebody who kind of is more like a distraction, but also can play the simple ball, the smart ball, set up his teammates, makes big scoring opportunities. So for me, he's got to be somewhere more central. And when you put him out as like a right winger, expecting him to play and be that Dybala substitute, I suppose it's what's best right now, but I don't think it's the long-term solution for him. But as we look at the heat map here, though, on the screen, you can see he's a little bit about everywhere, but really what he was doing was a much more defensive role as he sat back in his, I guess you could call it like defensive collapse in that type of zone. And it's on the top right center where you'll see the majority of his movement compared to somebody like, okay, let's take that away, right? Compare this to Zalewski, who in fact, according to this, was much higher up. Did he receive the ball? I mean, no, that's paltry. That's really poor. Just 26 touches is not what you need out of your winger. You definitely want someone who's going to be involved in the build-up or probably under De Rossi's ball, stretching out the opponent.
So yeah, about that. Sorry to interrupt, but to put that into perspective, on the last game against Brighton, El Shaarawy had 43 touches and 30 passes. On that same game against the same team. And right now we see Zalewski has 26 touches and 15 passes. So you can kind of tell that there's a huge difference and drop there. I don't know what you think about that, but I think looking at the numbers, it's clear that the impact is way different. In terms of passes, he has half. In terms of touches, he has half the passes that El Shaarawy has. And I don't know why El Shaarawy didn't play today. I don't know if you know. Was he injured? Was he struggling fitness wise? I don't know if you've checked that. Or
I'm gonna research that for a second while we're talking about that. Usually
because that was a major reason we lost today. I think in terms of the impact that we had from Zalewski and what El Shaarawy could have done.
Well, it's weird you pointed out because he was on the rumored starting lineups. Now that I backtrack and look at some information I had coming into this match, El Shaarawy was rumored to be starting, so there's nothing mentioned about injury or something. So it could have come down just to rest, and maybe De Rossi felt that if he could get to 0-0 at the end of the first half, that would be an accomplishment, and he would be able to save him. And maybe only he felt like in an emergency situation, but also the fact that he wanted to get Zalewski some time under his belt too, and I think that's correct. You can't keep young players just as like these guys who you put in for garbage minutes because he's not that young anymore. Zalewski is, I'm going to say he's 22 years old. Yeah, he's 22. So We'll see what happened. But our
Right,
buddy,
but the question there, Wayne, I think is if you kept him all the time that you kept him on the field, or if you made a substitution, because I was going to ask you what you thought about. Well, this is going to we were going to maybe get into this not at this time because we're talking about the attack, but I was going to tell you the substitutions were off in my opinion. I think with Llorente coming in, we were basically saying we don't want to win the game, we don't want to attack, we don't want to press, right? I mean, I don't know what you thought about that.
yeah, it's interesting. Towards the end of the match, we saw Joao Costa, who a lot of fans talk about him. They've seen his clips on the Primavera, and this is a kid who's rumored to be pretty darn good. I want to see more of him, but you like you said, Llorente comes in to close up shop. It's appropriate. It's the right move. It's not risky. It's what makes sense. It's common sense. Awar comes in.
But did we need to close shop, or did we need to win and turn the match around?
I think you go in and you just conserve your energy, to be honest. I know that's a bit of a defeatist approach to not go and play your game, but to me, it was the most pragmatic in that, especially going into the weekend. Roma have not Fiorentina, they just tied Fiorentina.
Sassuolo.
Sassuolo. Okay, so a team who have nothing to lose, quite a fast team, actually. Lauriente, one which can hit you on the counter when they want to. So maybe De Rossi had one eye on just conserving his players, which is definitely true, right? Because otherwise, Dybala would have played, and like we mentioned, El Shaarawy would have played. So there's that turnover in that. As we see the substitutions here, one of them is a player who barely plays. The other is Awar, who he's trying to integrate more into the starting lineup, and or I should say, into the rotation. But then it's, the big guys sit out: El Shaarawy, Angelino, Paredes, and Dybala. So, but to me, it's the smart move. I think you had to do this.
You think so?
Yeah. I wouldn't have. I think anything else would have just been
Because there's an identity aspect, right? There is a mentality and consistency in the way you played, and if you look at the overall numbers, I think you're cutting off, Wayne. I can't hear you. I don't know if you can hear me, or
I hear you.
it shows that you're talking, but the microphone.
Yeah, I hear you.
No, what I was gonna say is we had 8 shots today. I think only one of those was on goal. So we normally average way more than that. Last game against Brighton, we did 14, I think, and we had 7 half, which was 7 on target.
Look at this.
So we had one shot on target for 90 minutes today. I think.
Look at where we were. I mean, it's a perfect U shape. It's the perfect but you could. What this also does tell you, though, as much as we're gonna knock Zalewski, it shows you that he's the disconnect. He is the outlet, as you could see on the left side, top left, or I should say, rather, bottom left of our screen. So he's a bit disconnected from the overall shape. To me, this is by fashion. This is not random. This is him not out of position, but actually being like the escape route, if you will, for that half chance for a decent counter. So that's what I make of this shape. I mean, look at the dark green. That's a mid block, and it's so funny how you can tell all of this just by heat maps, but it's true. That's a mid block. It's not a total low, pick your like typical Catenaccio block, low. I don't want to say his name, but you know who I wanted to go with anyway. Ben is here. I'm going to throw his comment in. He says, hopefully Awar gets more time out there. Feels like he never had a chance with Mourinho, but he showed that he could offer quite a bit in those little moments that he played. So
your favorite coach, right, gets mentioned.
Yeah, my favorite coach, who I cheerlead for him. I really miss that guy.
Of course.
He's getting offers from Turkey now. That must really tell you something.
It tells you a lot about his quality and where he's at right now in the game. Right?
Yeah, his stock is only going up and up with those big offers from Beşiktaş. But this is what we've got from FOTMob. I like FOTMob, FOTMOB. You can see the player ratings here. The best one on the pitch. We've got to mention him, Patrick. Mile Svilar came up with several game goal-saving saves. He was phenomenal, and that also brings us to our second question of the day, though. And I'm gonna ask everyone else this too. What are you thinking here? Should Svilar be the starter in net next season? Keep in mind, it would save some money. Roma would not have to turn to the transfer market. They get a 25-year-old keeper. I think Svilar is 25, 24 rather. So he's got so much time ahead of him. I, I think he is. I think he is, Patrick. What's your gut instinct tell you about this?
I think we have to consider the possibility of spending the money better. He's been playing great. I think in this competition, at least, he was the reason we won against Feyenoord, and he's the reason we didn't concede today. It could have been two more goals, I think, if we had Rui Patricio on the post on that role. I don't know what you think, but I was thinking throughout the game, if we had used Esvilla more during Mourinho's time at the club, I think we would maybe be higher up the table right now. Because
Maybe Mourinho would still be coach.
and it's of course you have to wonder if the job if he lost his job because he didn't know which keeper to put on goal, and I think it's not that hard because the Rossi saw both of them in training and made the accurate assessment. I don't know if because they had a connection and they were both from Portugal and he had a special relationship with the player. He said that's the goalkeeper I'm going with, and or that he had if he had promised Patricio that he was going to be a starter going forward. I don't know. We'll never know those details, but I think it wasn't something that was hidden. Everyone, if you check the articles, if you check the comments on the Roma sites in any language, in Italian and English, most people were saying, we have an issue at the goalkeeping position, and that needs to be changed. And we had a guy that has a interesting story. It's right there. You were going to comment on that, but he has had a great career so far, and he came to Roma and then didn't play as much. But right now, I think that's the revelation of the team. At least in Europa League, I think he's been doing great. I don't know. What do
Yeah,
you think?
I mean, we needed this like the ocean, like the desert needs the rain. At the moment where it was just Roma's biggest weakness. If you look back statistically last season and into this season, he had the lowest amount of XG saved, or I should say, expected saves, XS, I guess they call it. And he just had so many personal errors. Is Rui Patricio a decent number two? I guess so. Like, sure. But for me, you hit a good topic, or I should say, a good point in the beginning of when you were talking. Should those funds be spent elsewhere? We have to keep in mind Roma haven't spent a dime in 2.5 years. I think Baldanzi is the first time that Roma actually spent money since Selic was signed, and Selic was like 9 million euros. If you compare that to, like, I don't know, a bottom level Premier League team, they spend like about like 60, 70 million euros per season. So the fact that the Giallorossi haven't spent a dime, and they're probably things haven't really changed unless they qualify for Champions League. That does change the budget considerably. But going forward, Svilar is my number one. I think you go out, you invest, like you and I have spoken about, out on the left wing. You take a look at your wing backs, you exchange one of your right backs and get somebody else in, like Michael Coyote from Fiorentina, who I like a lot. Maybe I think the midfield's okay, but I think it needs to get a little bit younger at this point. Pellegrini, Cristante, Paredes, these guys are all in their late 20s at this point. There needs to be some new blood there. The center back position, does Chris Smalling? I don't know. His medical issues continue, but that's definitely I should say an area which we're going to be observing over the next several months heading into the summer. So the center back role, the striker position, does Tammy stay? Does Tammy go to Aston Villa? There's a lot of question marks heading into this summer. But back to your point, the money could be spent in other positions, and that's how I very much feel. That's why I'm like, yeah, Svilar is the number one.
Right. I don't think that Patricio is staying more than this season. I think he's going to leave. But yeah, I just looked at the numbers, and it was 4 saves today and 4 saves last time, so 8 saves in total against Brighton that we had with Esvilar. And in both games, he had a high rating today and the last time. And I think that is enough. I mean, at some point we were going to have to make that, like you said, the decision to keep it to decide where we spend our money. And I think even if Svilarman is not world class right now, he's showing that he can become better. And I think one thing Roma doesn't do is give youngsters a chance as much as we've done historically. Like other teams, they try out younger players instead of getting older players that have already are hitting the part of the decline in their performance. So yeah, I think money can be spent better than in goalkeeper going next season. I will get another striker because I don't think once Lukaku is gone, we're going to have Abraham. We don't know if he's going to turn out good or if he's going to be the same player after the injury. And I don't think we're going to renew Lukaku unless we make it to Champions League. I don't know. What do you think about the striker situation there?
Well, there is a option on this guy. I just don't know if it just seems too early. Like I haven't seen enough of him. Can I really say that Osmoon has deserved it? He's had some really talented moments. He's come up a number of times. There's one big goal, a header he scored. I think it earned Roma a draw late in like the 88th, 89th, somewhere around that. I forget which game it is off the top of my head. But that option's not going to be cheap. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. But we go back to this idea of where does Roma spend money? Abraham goes back, and we're answering this question. I shouldn't say goes back, comes back. What does Roma do on the striker front? I think youth, we have to go back to youth. We have to go back to this idea. If you keep Tammy Abraham, which I'm in favor of, you don't sign Lukaku due to his high wages, his age, and kind of where I have a feeling his direction is going as a player and his fitness levels. And I don't want to. I think that you can read between the lines there. So I think that Tammy stays. Osmoon does not get signed, but Roma scout and they go to the people that they pay to find talent, and they come up with something new, something different. Maybe something like a Kvaratskhelia deal, somebody who's out in a league which isn't paid too much attention to. Not a big name, not a Skamaka to come in and compete with Abraham. I don't think that's the right method. It's not the right way to go about this. I think Pinamonti might be just only slightly above average, just to throw a name out there at you. There is, though, a player that really is catching my eye. He's 22 years old. He plays at Monza. This kid, I think, could be pretty special. He's an old school number 9, if you will, Lorenzo Colombo. I don't know. What does he have? Like a half a dozen goals so far this season. I'm going to try to get that stat for you really quickly. Yeah, about 4 goals. So it's nothing crazy. But like I mentioned, he's tall. He's 22 years old. He's young. You could see his current market value according to Transfer Market. You can't take this too seriously, but it tends to be somewhat right. 7 million euros for a 22-year-old with 4 goals. I don't know. You look at the nature of his goals, and I think I like Lorenzo Colombo a lot. This is a player I definitely recommend we all keep our eye on. Lorenzo Luca is doing his thing at Udinese. Are there any names off the top of your head that you think might be interesting, Patrick?
For the striker role?
Or
yeah, well, I think Albert Gudmundsson from Genoa is a great choice, honestly, because obviously he's more expensive. I think
on the left wing.
So we were talking about center forward, right?
Yeah, but
he can play. What we need is a guy that can do all 3 positions up front. I think because we need versatility and we have Dybala injuries and stuff like that. So I think he has played on the 3 tops, on the right, on the left, and on the center, and he has 10 goals, I believe, and 3 assists in 26 games this season.
Scores a lot.
So that's pretty good. He's 26. He's according to Transfer Market, I think his current price is 22 million, which I don't know. Maybe we might get a deal there, 15 down and 8 as a deferred payment or so. But I think he's a very good choice for depth, not to be our main striker, but I think he's an interesting choice. And then we get into the unrealistic stuff, right? That we were talking last time, because, for example, Cirksi from Bologna, I think it would be an interesting choice if we could get him. I don't know what his value is right now, and surely there's a lot of interest from big teams. I don't know, from the Premier League. He also has 10 goals, and one more assist than Albert, and I think he's of course younger, right? He's 22. Albert Gudmundsson
Yeah,
from
he's younger,
Genoa is
22.
26, so he's 4 years younger, and he has same goals and one more assist. So he's definitely going to go to a team better. I don't know what's going to happen with Bologna, because honestly, if they make it into champions, I don't know if they're gonna if Thiago is going to stay or if he's going to go, or what do you think is going to happen with that team going forward? Is
I
it going
think
to
it,
be a liquidation sale, everything must
yeah,
go, or is it going to be even if they make it to champions and we don't make it? Do you think they're going to keep their team and keep their coach, or is it going to be a
liquidation.
total total
It's a
rebuild?
it's a liquidation. Thiago Motta is going to go somewhere huge, and Xerxes going to follow him. Xerxes, I think, ends up at Arsenal. To be honest with you, um, and I think this 40 million valuation is only half of what he's worth. If we look in the past, players like Osimhen, they went for like 80 million. Pepe to Arsenal was also like north of 70 million. So Xerxes is doing it. He's absolutely running riot on this league. And like kind of like what you mentioned with Albert, he can play across the front three. Really, he's like a false nine. He's big. He can be the layoff guy. He can take players one on one. Man, he's super talented, I have to say. But I also got an interesting shout here from Narf. Narf McCringle mentions Brunori from the Manchester City owned club, aka Palermo, the Abu Dhabi run, now Abu Dhabi run club. And this is an interesting shout. I want to give you so Brunori, I think, is about 28 years old off the top of my head there. And he has scored. Oh, apparently he's Brazilian. Like has Brazilian. He's born in Brazil. I didn't know that. Italian citizen. Um, he's worth less than 5 million euros. 12 goals for Palermo this year. Let's see what's going on in the Serie B standings quickly. What do we got? Oh yeah, you could see that. Okay, so Parma up top, and then if we go down, we will find Palermo very close, 49 points. They'll be in the playoff race to get back into Serie A, which they very much can do. And Brunardi, this guy scores like all the time, and I took a gamble there to see if it was him who scored. It wasn't, but whatever. That's a really interesting shout there. But I like the idea, Patrick, of Xerxes. Let's say Roma does get back to the Champions League and is flush with money. Do you play it in the middle and you go for Goodmanson, or do you go all out and try to make that bid for Xerxes? I think that's an interesting idea there. There's also Retegui, as LB points out here, who is big. Guy gets on to the end of a lot of goals. He's talented. He played out in Mexico for Tigres, correct? And he was impressive out there. He's a young age. How old is Retegui? I'm going to say he's 24. Yep, 24. So good stuff there. He's an Italian international. He's going to keep on being part of Spalletti's setup, it looks like. So out of these names, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to go with. But to get us back towards today's match, which I think most of us are here for, we should take a look at the standings and the actual impact of today, where we see Liverpool, and this is, I think they're by far the favorites in this tournament, Patrick. Liverpool win on aggregate 11-2 over Sparta Prague, which is nuts. Like they're just doing. What happened? I forget. If I think suddenly, I'm not sure how they got down to Europa League. They definitely dropped down from the Champions League, but I'm not sure exactly how that all happened. This is the team I want to avoid. So I want to ask you, besides Liverpool, who are the last two teams you don't want to face in the quarterfinals, in the round of 8, if you will?
Well, I wouldn't want to face an Italian team. I think that would spoil the competition a bit. I think we should play a team that's not Italian, at least for the next round. If in the semifinal we play an Italian team, that's more interesting. But I also would want to avoid Bayer Leverkusen, because I think if you watched the game today, which was a fun game, because there was a an expectation that they were going to get eliminated by Karabakh, and they almost got eliminated with Karabakh, as a matter of fact, but they managed to fix that situation in the last minute. There was a red card, which was not. It was a very soft red card that spoiled the game, in my opinion. And I want you to click there and see who was the scorer of one of the goals there, to see if you remember the guy.
You have to be kidding me. I didn't know this. Patrick Schick, 90 plus
Yes,
3, 90
exactly.
plus 7. Come on, man. I gotta watch these highlights while we're talking. That's ridiculous. Come on, Frimpong. Oh,
And just
keep going.
his team is at the top of the table right now, obviously. And I'm gonna give you a number. Hold on. He has 3 goals in the Bundesliga, so he hasn't done a great job there. But I think he scored also in the last minute on the other game, on the first game they had against Karabakh, and it was in the 90th minute or so. So it's interesting, because players like that we gave up on, and they're right now having different careers and they're achieving success. I think he's going to win the Bundesliga, hopefully, to this time around.
Yeah,
And if you even, I was going to mention Borja Mayoral as well, who has 15 goals in the Liga.
yeah. For
He's
who?
not in one of the teams that we're gonna be after, obviously, because they haven't been um, competing in Europa League. But he plays for Getafe right now, and he has 15 goals in La Liga. And he's young. He's relatively young still. He's 26. I don't think we gave
I didn't
him.
realize he was that young. To be honest with you.
I don't think we gave him a chance, but he's played 25 games, has 15 goals, 1 assist, and he's been doing a great job in Spain
It's
in
not
La
bad at
Liga.
all.
Um, but yeah, I wouldn't want to face Bayern Leverkusen, and I wouldn't want to face. I think Benfica is an underrated team. If you saw how they played today, they played against Rangers, which wasn't that tough of a rival, to be honest. But they managed to pull off an upset at the end there, and you can tell they have a lot of young players, young talented players.
Yeah. Leverkusen. Keep going.
Leverkusen and Benfica are tough, but who would you want us to play, realistically speaking? Would you like us to play another English team like West Ham, or what are you thinking? Who would you like
No.
out of the teams that are remaining in the competition? Because we're
Villarreal.
out tomorrow, so predictions.
Definitely Villarreal. I don't trust Benfica. I rate these Portuguese teams really highly. I don't know what is in the water there, but they continuously just turn out excellent teams. Milan would be a lot of fun. I think Atalanta too, but Atalanta is just too athletic for me. And I think that this is like two bulls going at each other. And the only winner of that tie will probably be Bologna, who can make up ground while these two teams are distracted with their European affairs. It's making me think of like geopolitics, and I don't want to see Bologna take advantage of that situation. So I want to avoid Atalanta. I would like to play Milan. I would like to play Villarreal. West Ham, I don't know. I think they're a talented team as well. Benfica, I don't want to face.
They won 5-0 today, West Ham. I don't know if you
Yeah, they
saw that,
crushed
but
them. I don't want to face Leverkusen. Would it be fun to see Roma go against Xabi Alonso and Florian Wirtz and Boniface? Yeah, I think so. Just for the footballing sake, for the casual fan, that's who would really benefit from that draw, not Roma. But I mean, you look at some of these names on West Ham, and I'm not even super familiar with them. I'm just looking at them for the first time. Kurt Zuma, Alvarez, Paqueta is there, Antonio Fabianski. So my mouse has died on anyway. And that team had some talented players. Like I'm not going to say I know these guys too well, but Vincenzo Grifo is out there. Gunter is a decent player. He's been around, I think, for a while. Ogbonna is actually still out at West Ham. I always forget that former Italian international. He doesn't really get call ups anymore. But yeah, West Ham, I don't trust all that much if I'm honest with you. And Marseille beat Villarreal too. So Marco, thanks for joining. Is who's the winner of that draw? Is it Marseille or Villarreal? Who went? Maybe I got that wrong. Who's ahead there on aggregate? Um, it must be. Is it? Oh, it's Marseille. It's
Yeah, I
actually.
thought it was Marseille.
Oh, okay. Wow, 5-3 on aggregate there. Jonathan Klaus. Not familiar with this team at all. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I know they've invested quite a bit over the last 5 years. They bought Under. I think he's still there. Kondogbia. That's an interesting move there.
They
But
have Aubameyang, who's their main player. He has
no,
11 goals in France right now in the season and 7 assists. You remember Aubameyang from Arsenal, right? When
dude, I did not realize he was out at Marseille. He's a phenomenal player. I love Alba Mayong. I haven't said that word in a
it's a
while.
handful that name. But yeah, he's their top goal scorer in the French tournament. 11 goals and 7 assists in I think it was 21 games or so. I checked. But yeah, the other they don't have that many stars to be honest with you. I think the most well known player is Aubameyang probably on that team.
Jeez, that's kind of nuts. By the way, I was wrong. Under is out at Besiktas. I just looked at it. So like,
They also have our friend Beretut, that Jordan. I don't know if you remember him.
yeah, oh yeah, nice, interesting little team they got going on over there. So if
But
just to give
but
you,
what do you think of the country aspect? Because we have three Italian teams still in the competition. Pretty good for Italy, especially for the to get that extra Champions League spot and get a higher ranking. What do you think of the job Italian teams have been doing?
yeah, it's solid. It's probably going to end up in Italy. That's really good for Roma. It takes some of that pressure off of needing to catch Bologna, needing to, I think Atalanta, they could still put up a fight, but the fact that Roma has got a little, like a bit of a lead, I think that they can maintain it. Both teams have pretty tough schedules coming up for themselves, but this race for the fifth spot, I think, is everything. So I'm proud of the
But
Italian
it helps us that Atalanta moves forward because now
It
they're
does.
going to have also as many games as we have, right?
Yeah,
Milan,
we
I don't
need
think
that.
we're competing against, right? But
No, we need them to continue for sure. Atalanta needs the least amount of energy in their legs as possible because the one thing that we know about them, right? Atalanta's got something special the way that those boys run, and they just don't give up on the ball. I mean, like Coop Miners is probably the best center mid in Italy right now, so they've got that going for them. They've got a good attack. What's his face out on the left wing? Nigerian English player. Oh my gosh. Atalanta squad. I gotta Lookman, Adamola
right.
Lookman.
So you have to recognize though that Atalanta had the hardest time moving to the quarterfinal round, to the next round. They only won by 1 goal. It's 3-2 on aggregate. And Milan, well, Milan had 7-3, 7 goals in the aggregate, and we had obviously 4-1, right? Which Atalanta did the worst job of the Italian team.
We've got good comments coming in here too.
Yeah,
Rocco's here.
acknowledge away.
Italy's still ranked number one, so about 100, more than 100 points over Germany and England. And Ben says, "Let's get Marseille to put 10 past Pau Lopez." Yeah, I saw P. Lopez, and I was like, "That can't be Pau Lopez, could it?" And sure enough, it is. So Marseille did us a nice favor of lowering our salary expenditures for sure, getting rid of some of the, I don't want to call them dead weight because I thought Jordan Veretout was a good player, but those guys, Lopez, Under, and Veretout, were on some pretty heavy wages. But anyway, guys, keep the comments coming in. We're going to run a few more minutes here. And as we just break this down, I've asked Patrick the teams that he does not want to face. We both agree that it's not Liverpool, it's not Leverkusen, maybe it's Atalanta, but for me, it's Milan. And we're saying Marseille, right? Can we both? Would you agree with me that Marseille is probably the team that Roma would be most lucky to draw?
Yes, probably. Yeah, of
Marseille.
course.
Okay, so what's betting here?
Yeah. Honestly, all teams that are still there are very strong teams, and it's a unique feature of this edition of the Europa League that they have a lot of very strong teams. I don't know. It's been a while, I think, since there were that many great teams on this last few rounds.
Aside from the obvious ones with Real Madrid, Manchester City, I would say that the Europa League is harder than the Champions League right now. Maybe I'm being a bit dramatic.
Right, because you have teams like Benfica with most of the teams that are still in have long histories of competing at the top level, of winning domestic division titles. So I think there's really no easy team at this point. I think Marseille would probably be a good choice for us, but honestly, you can't take anything for granted, I think, and it would be awful if we ended up going against Liverpool tomorrow in the morning. We got that news. I don't know. How would you take something like that?
You got to take it on the chin, right? You just roll with it and you use it. Well, first of all, Roma can very well win that match. What I don't like about it, though, is it puts I don't say unnecessary, but it puts such a strain on the players going forward. It's such an obstacle that it draws attention away from the league. It draws attention away from Roma's chances of qualifying for the Champions League next season. So it's the devil I do not want to meet. I don't want to see them at all. And I'm looking at, and I made that comment, right? Like the Europa League is actually stronger than the Champions League this year. I'm looking at these teams, and I'm like, I don't want to face any of these teams, but I would rather face Barcelona or Bayern than Liverpool, and probably even Atletico Madrid. So,
and do you agree with Ben that
and Dortmund.
his comment there? Show it. I don't know if you can show it on screen. The comment, it says, "I know I said this earlier, but I bet European Roma would absolutely smoke at Atalanta, unlike Serie A Roma." Do you agree with that, or?
Maybe.
Because we can't smoke Atalanta, apparently. Lately, that hasn't been the case, so I don't know.
I don't know. Does Atalanta have the type of turnover, the type of depth where they could still slot in a few quality players here and there? Maybe not as much as Roma. Does Roma now bring that European experience? I'm not sure how much that's really worth when it comes to playing against teams from your same league. So for me, I'll say I don't know. I don't know how that game would go. If you were like, let's say you were into sports gambling, I wouldn't advise you on either. First of all, I would say don't bet because I don't believe in it. But two, I would say probably stay away from this draw because you totally don't know what you're going to get out of this. But like Ben says, European Roma cut from a different cloth. So we're in two finals back to back. We won one, should have won the other last year. Hey. And Rocco says Roma never gets the draw that they want. So it probably will be Xabi Alonso and Boniface, who's scoring like 1 million goals this season. Oh, Rocco says, I think this is going to be probably our last question here, Patrick, because I got to get to bed and actually take a shower and be part of, the civilized world.
You have to get to bed at 9 p.m.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You bet.
That's an interesting time,
Patrick, I need a full 8 hours of sleep. If I don't get it, I'm cranky like a
toddler. We're not even going to mention what happened yesterday and how Italy got owned in Champions League and completely kicked out of the competition. We're not going to mention anything about that.
We're going to ignore Inter's Lautaro Martinez's penalties, definitely. Rocco brings up 2 points here. I want to touch both of them. Leverkusen are beating Bundesliga teams, and that's a very good point. Karabag puts 4 past them. What can Roma do? And also, Roma did beat Leverkusen last season in the Europa League. Let's keep that in mind. Maybe we shouldn't put Leverkusen out to be this revelation just yet. Let's see what they can continue to do on a European level. But this one, I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think Milan is a level above Roma. Patrick, how do you see that matchup? Roma, Milan, who are you taking? Or at least is Milan a level above this Roma? I don't think so.
I think, to be honest, it honestly, if Roma has its full team and everyone's healthy and everyone's ready, all our starters, we can compete against Milan perfectly, and I think we would. I think we can't forget that we were winning against Inter during the first half. I think we played a great game. On the second half, we kind of lost the game, but we played against the best team in Italy and managed to win the first half. And I think we can, obviously, if everyone's healthy, I think we can do the same against Milan. Liverpool is the only team that I would say is in a whole other class. But also, I wouldn't discount Bayern, because even though they've beaten easy teams, and they didn't have against Karabakh a very strong opponent. I think you have to see the evolution of the team under Xabi Alonso, and I think every year they're getting better, and that's a merit of the coach, of course. But yeah, I think today's Bayern Leverkusen is way better than was in the past. Even last year, talking about last year, I think it's a team that always fights till the end. Look at you looked at the scoreline. The goals came at the very last minute, and I think on the first game of the aggregate, it was the same thing. I don't know if it was quite the same minute, but I think on the first game that they played, they scored one, and well, that game I don't think is a
This
good
is
reference.
this is a bad reference for the given the time and what was going on with the team.
Pull up the lineup as well, so really quickly there.
Yeah, it's a hodgepodge. It's like one there's no Dybala.
There's
right?
no Nising. That's Christensen, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, that's Christensen. There's no Karsdorp.
Right, of course. No Dybala. No.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, you have
no
two
Ndika
right backs
as well, right? That was when Ndika was off in his national team.
No Ndika. Mancini's playing center back. Llorente's out wide. Like both.
So Ndika, we didn't mention him today. I think we missed that opportunity because I thought he did a great job, and he's growing as a center back. I think. I honestly, he's valued at 25 million right now. I think he could go for 40. I mean, you wouldn't sell him for less than 35. I don't know what you think in terms of value there.
Ndika is like indispensable to this team, man. I think he's one of the best recovery center backs. He's very hard to beat in a race. To me, he reminds me kind of like of Kim Min-jae, where Kim had a physicality as well as his pace. He was able to catch strikers. This is the type of center back I love. He's a major addition, I think, over Ibanez. I love Evan Ndika. I think he's a great player. But Rocco makes an interesting point here. Roma haven't beaten Milan in quite a while. And I think on that sour note, we can say that Roma still have some work to do. And
I think that Rossi can manage to beat Milan. I don't know what you think.
I think so too. I think he can get over that hump. I think Roma are a better team right now.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, guys, I think that's it, right?
That's it. Leave a like. Show some love. Send this to your friends. Send it on Reddit. Whatever, Big Soccer, your WhatsApp groups. And if you want, you can head into our WhatsApp group as well. I'm going to post that for you right here. You jump
and rewatch the whole thing so that the video gets views and Wayne can make it big in YouTube. That's very important because he's not going to self-promote, but you have to tell your friends and get the views up and the likes as well, right? Because the likes are important for ranking purposes as well.
The likes are everything. We got to keep on growing. We got to make this a thing, bigger thing. Thanks to you guys. All right, Patrick.
All right, Wayne. Talk to you later. Bye.
Ciao.